Welcome in Paris after your long transportation from Florence. So my name is Patricia. I will be your guide for all this week. So we will have a special program together, visit of Paris, visit of museums. So we will tell you later exactly what we're going to do. We will do this morning a sightseeing tour of Paris in order to see the main monuments of Paris. A panoramic tour. This is the new Library of France, inaugurated by the former French President François Mitterrand. La Grande Bibliothèque in French. The Bastille, where we're going now, used to be a fortress, later converted into a jail of the king. This jail was terrible. It was the symbol of the absolute monarchy of the king. It was destroyed the famous day, nowadays the national day for the French people, the 14th of July, 1789. Look at the beautiful angel that you have at the top of the column. A gold leaf angel symbolizing the Republic, the democracy, the liberty in France. Nowadays you have just the square, which has the name, the Bastille Square. This building, completely modern as you can see, is the new opera, the Bastille Opera. We call this district Le Marais, marshlands in French, marais, swamps, because when the River Seine was larger than it is nowadays, it covered this part of Paris, and it was very humid. We had marshlands really, and later, especially in the 15th, 16th century, monks decided to live here, and they completely dried out this district of Paris, and it was very, very residential at the time of the kings of the monarchy in the 16th and 17th century. And on our way to see the Cathedral Notre Dame, you will have a last example of this former private residence of the Archbishop of Burgundy, just on your left-hand side. But look at the gardens. They are called French designed gardens. You see the style of the architecture is end of the Gothic period, 15th century, beginning of the Renaissance period, a rebirth, as you say in English, a Renaissance. And we're going to drive along the River Seine, and for the first time we're passing over the River Seine. We're passing through an island called the St. Louis Island, but we have another island, larger, just on your right. You see the island, the city island, and you see the flying buttresses of the Cathedral Notre Dame, built in the 12th century, the first Gothic cathedral of this province where we are, the island of France.
We continue along on our city tour on the other side of the river, which gives a nice view of the side of Notre Dame Cathedral. We're now in the left bank area, also called the Latin Quarter. This was the old student neighborhood back in the Middle Ages, and today it's a very lively district, a lot of shops and restaurants, and a large building that had been a church and is now a national monument.
And look at this amazing monument, looking like a Greek temple. And it's called Le Panthéon, the Pantheon, where you have around 70 people buried inside. But they are important personalities of our French history, philosophy. To give you an idea, we have the writer Jean-Jacques Rousseau. We have the writer Voltaire. We have a very important couple, the only woman, Pierre and Marie Curie. Victor Hugo is buried inside also.
At the foot of Rue Soufflot, there's a nice view looking back at the Pantheon across that fountain.
Wonderful view now on your right over this Palace of the Luxembourg, built by a Queen of France called Marie of Medici.
The Luxembourg Gardens continues south with a row of statues that leads towards the observatory. These gardens are a very popular place for families with kids.
And this district is called Saint-Germain. Saint-Germain in the fields.
This district has many expensive boutiques and fine art galleries and famous cafes and the School of Fine Arts where young artists are trained. And around the corner, fittingly enough, is the Orsay Museum, Musée d'Orsay. This is the great collection of French Impressionists. And then just beyond, we cross the river again and pay a visit to Place de la Concorde, which is the largest open square in all of Europe. Those fountains were made famous by Gene Kelly, an American in Paris.
Where are we going now to drive through the international famous long avenue of the Champs-Elysees. On the left, this beautiful building, which is in restoration for the moment, is the Grand Palais, built in 1900. But we continue to drive up to the Arch of Triumph.
Passing the famous garden intersection called La Ronde Pont, designed by Lenotte, onto the Champs-Elysees itself. This is the Grand Boulevard of Paris. There's lots of cafes, there's lots of car dealers, there's some travel agencies. It's a mix, there's retail, a famous restaurant called Fouquet. It's one of the oldest in all of Paris, culminating with the Arc de Triomphe.
This Arch of Triumph was built in 1806 during 30 years to commemorate the great army, generals and marshals of the battles of Napoleon I.
We'll be coming back over to this district in another day to have a look on foot. Later in the program, we'll take you on a stroll down the Champs-Elysees.
So 100 years after the French Revolution, we inaugurated the Eiffel Tower. And it was built during 2 years, so it's quite rapid, because Gustave Eiffel, we say Eiffel in French, used only iron to do this construction, 300 meters high.
And just beyond the Eiffel Tower, you'll come to the Invalides. This is a spectacular church dome. Also, the military school is here. It holds the tomb of Napoleon. And then on to the Pont Alexandre III. This was built for the 1900 exposition. And then back over to the Place de la Concorde as we head up the avenue towards the beautiful Church of the Madeleine. This was built on the orders of Napoleon. It looks very much like a Greek temple, most unusual for a Catholic church to be built in this way. Normally there'd be a large dome and such. This is the middle of the business district of Paris. It's the first arrondissement, right in the heart of town, passing Rue Saint-Honoré, passing some wonderful boutiques and tea shops and street vendors, into the heart of town at the Place de l'Opéra. This is the Grand Opera House of Paris. Nowadays, it's not used for opera any longer. We showed you earlier the new opera house over at the Place Bastille. Behind the opera are some grand department stores. The Galeries Lafayette and Printemps occupies 3 long blocks of the city. Continuing around the opera, it's recently been renovated and it's used for ballet performances and other musical soirees.
This is the Vendôme square for jewelries, where you have Cartier, Boucheron, Charvet, Van Cleef, Arpels, Buccellati, well, and all these famous names. And of course on the right, this is the famous Ritz Hotel, one of the oldest hotels of Paris. And if you look again the architecture of this square, you can see that it is the 17th century. You see the sun, le soleil, emblem of Louis XIV, the Sun King. So you can deduce that this square was built by him and again by his official architect Mansart.